Dave Chappelle's latest Netflix special has triggered an online furore over its alleged transphobia and a walkout of Netflix staff, all of whom look like they spend 90% of their working day complaining about things being problematic. So this is probably the first workers' walkout in history that's actually led to a rise in productivity. It's worth remembering that the Netflix walkout doesn't represent all trans women. In real life, there are some hot ones. The walkout organisers have published a list of demands. They want a fund created for trans and non-binary talent. So this is probably a good time for me to point out that I'm actually transgender. I just don't subscribe to heteronormative gender norms, so give me some of that money. They also want to reduce the real-world harm caused by transphobic content. This reminds me of religious fundamentalists in the 1980s burning heavy metal records and screaming that violent films would lead to real-world violence, even though studies have shown that life doesn't imitate art like that. The organisers also want to eliminate references to transphobic talent, presumably Dave Chappelle. They should have actually added a request that everyone eliminates references to the viciously racist tweets of the organiser, who seems to have a big problem with Asians. Woke figurehead Hannah Gadsby has weighed in, complaining that she wasn't paid nearly enough to deal with the real-world consequences of Chappelle's hate speech. Apparently Chappelle was paid $24.1 million for his special, much more than Hannah was paid for her special, Nanette. Yeah, Hannah, welcome to the free market. Dave gets paid more because more people want to watch him because he's not drizzling shit. It's like women's footballers complaining that they don't get paid as much as the men. We can't force people to buy tickets to women's football. I mean, not yet. Maybe the government's working on some sort of scheme. And is there actually any transphobia in Chappelle's show? I couldn't find any, and I was really looking for it. I mean, he makes the point that transgender women should be allowed to use the bathrooms they want to use. And that doesn't seem so transphobic to me. And when he compares trans pussy to Impossible Burgers, those vegan burgers that are designed to look exactly like meat, it's hilarious. You know, that's not blood, it's beet juice. Look, the best comedy is a truth that can't be said. It can be awkward, even cruel, but it's true. It's not transphobic to state that a surgically created pussy isn't the same as a real pussy. It's just true. I know woke ideology says that there's no difference at all between a real pussy and a trans pussy, but there is. He's not saying one is better or worse, it's just different. And there's an assumption of bad faith in Dave's comedy. He's been accused of punching down, so he makes the point that punching down on someone requires you to think that they're less than you. This is obviously true, and comedy is something that breaks down barriers between people and brings them together. And Chappelle makes the point that this does not mean that I feel that another point of view can't exist. His opinions are not an objective, absolute truth. Conflicting opinions can coexist alongside each other. And the emotionally moving climax of the show is about his friendship with trans woman Daphne Dorman. She's a comedian who opened for Dave on some shows and tweeted in defence of him when he was previously accused of transphobia. She was dragged on social media by trans rights activists because she'd gone against her own tribe. And 6 days after her tweet supporting Dave, she killed herself. Possibly as a result of the abuse she was getting online from trans rights activists. I mean, if words can harm, as Dave's detractors say his words do, isn't this the real harm? Trans rights activists bullying a trans woman to suicide? And calling someone a transphobe or racist, etc. is just the modern version of calling someone a witch. It can't be proven or disproven, but it galvanises the mob. A theme running through Chappelle's show is that all people are human and all humans are fallible, so we should be more forgiving of each other and more tolerant of each other's opinions, especially in comedy. As Chappelle says, he's not following people to their cars, yelling comedy at them. They're buying tickets or clicking play on Netflix. They're specifically choosing to watch it.